potential, helping people have breakthroughs, as well as building a business, certifying coaches and business models that work and don't work. So Jay and I have had a lot of, multiple conversations over the past month, and I realized that I absolutely had to share them with all of you guys. So I asked him for his formal bio just so I could introduce him, and because I couldn't wait to read it. And I really laughed out loud when this is what he sent me. He said this. This was his bio. Best-selling author, student of human nature, avid outdoorsman at 5-star hotels, speaks fluent smartass, can see and reflect your life mission in 5 minutes flat, loves having 2 sons so he can play with their toys, still fantasizes about his wife after 25 years, loves ideas but loves results more, and can simultaneously laugh and cry for different reasons at the same time, and he's never been starstruck. So when I read that, seriously, a man after my own heart, and his final comment completely resonated with me, which is why I think, Jay, you and I click so well. He said this: I'm dedicated to instigating a global movement of conscious creators and supporting people to organize their life and resources around their passions and gifts. So you guys get to see, what you have to look forward to over the next hour. So Jay, I'm excited to have you here. You're going to add so much value to my tribe. And I know we're going to be focusing on, things that work and that don't work in coaching and in business models. But really, kind of before we jump into that, do you want to tell everyone a little bit more about you, how you got started, your story, whatever works there?
I can sure give you the brief rundown. I want to be sure, first and foremost, can you actually see my screens at this stage of the game? Or if you could...
I can.
Okay.
I can see it.
Beautiful. Okay, so first and foremost, thank you so much, Anne, number one, for having me. I truly appreciate it. It is always an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to speak with coaches, people who are contributing their unique gifts on planet Earth. I mean, it is the most exciting thing under the sun for me. So number one, thank you. And it also, just to be clear about it, if you laugh at my crazy bio and that resonates with you, it probably means that you're just a little bit on the odd side. So, welcome, comrade, is all I can say to that.
Well, wait a sec. Did you just call me odd or did you just call me fat? I can't tell.
No, neither. I just meant that you were just perhaps a little unorthodox. Unorthodox.
Okay,
We'll put it.
awesome.
I always look in my classrooms for the people who laugh at the jokes that are just a little bit unusual, because those are the only ones I find are funny. So I found a friend in you. So to give people a very brief rundown, I don't want to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on this, but I do know that it does make a difference for people to understand, who and what, people are. This is a picture of me, so you have an idea of who the heck it is that you're talking to. And our stand at the Creators Code for coaches and trainers is simply this: is that we want to support coaches and trainers earn 6 figures and have a life. And I think, I don't know how many people on this call are parents, but I have 2 boys. The single most important thing under the sun to me is being a great dad and having a fantastic relationship with my dear wife, Corey, and all of those pieces. So having a life is not bolded by accident there. And we do so basically by providing turnkey business systems, support, structure, all of those pieces. The reason this is important, I'm going to go real fast, is if any of you are ICF members, they just came out with their 2012 report, and the median income, $25,000, which means that half coaches earn more than $25,000, half the coaches on planet Earth earn less than $25,000, and this was adjusted for U.S. income. And the average coach, if we just added all the income up together and split it up, is making $47,900. But both of those numbers are not true, because these numbers only came from people who were actually active coaches, meaning that they had more than 3 coaching clients a week. Well, goodness gracious, that excludes the vast majority of people who call themselves coaches. So it's reality overstated. So this is big and important work to me. And why this is big and important work to me, and why I just wanted to start with this, is that we live in a time where people need support more than any other time on planet Earth. Things are changing so fast we can't keep up, and I want to be somebody who makes a difference with that. So another picture of me from earlier time when I had more hair. And one of the things I do want to share with you is that I wrote a book called Reframe Your Blame: How to Be Personally Accountable. And for anyone who is a coach, this is something that could assist and support you in your coaching business. And I want you to I want to start the call with just an offer of value here. And by the way, I'm just going to get my pointer going here. Pen. Is if you go to my website here, which is the jfazette.com, there is a little opt-in box on the right-hand side that will keep you posted with just my blog entries. It doesn't go anywhere else, but you can get actually a free copy of my book that you can digitally download. And I promise you, if you do that workbook, it will have a monumental influence on you, and it's something that you can take immediately into your practice with all of your coaches. And is it true that everyone on the line has experienced Ideal Life Vision or is a certified coach with Ideal Life Vision? I'm just not exactly sure who I'm talking to.
You know what? It's definitely coaches and a few others, because at the last minute I decided to put this out to my clients. So, but you know what? A few people still sneak in. So let's just assume that they all at least know what Life Vision is,
Okay.
and the majority of them are coaches.
Beautiful, beautifully beautiful. So a couple of things about this. I just want to offer, start with an offer of support and let you know that this is a tool and a resource. Please use. It is designed as a workbook. It's not a reading book. There is a ton of stuff in there that can help your coaching practice. And whether you have a coaching practice or you just are working on coaching yourself to your next step, I promise you it will make a difference. I get notes all the time from, coaches, therapists, counselors asking, for bulk purchases, and some thanks for the book. You're very, very welcome.
Yeah.
Saying,
And I'm loving it, by the way. I'm not that far in it. I only started a week ago. And you're right, it's not just a reading book, but it's so deep and thought provoking. And you need like a notebook, to write all your answers. And I have to like stop after each question and close the book and go, okay, I'm going to be thinking about this one for a few minutes.
and I
I
give you
love it though. It's really, really good.
I give you my word that it's broken into four parts. The first two parts are a little deeper in terms of getting us going, but the last and that's more sort of the clarification, the clearing area, and then parts 3 and 4 are more the creation area. So I promise you it'll get easier, but it is worth the work. And just on that note, and what I will also do is I'll make available both to you and everyone on the line. There is a workbook, like a blank workbook that has all the questions just to fill in, so you're not scribbling in your book if you want to share it and all that fun stuff. So anyway,
Oh, cool.
I wanted just to start and to open and to offer with that. It's an exceptional book, but you shouldn't really just take my word for it. In terms of here's a couple of guys you may know, or have heard of, or have heard speak, or any of those sorts of things, both of whom endorsed the book, which I was really blessed with. And Jack said, Reframe Your Blame is a step-by-step guide that'll help you apply the first and most important success principle, taking 100% responsibility for your life. This book will raise your vibration, clarify your mission, and support you to genuine personal accountability. And I interviewed him on a radio program, and it was kind of a funny thing that I had sent him the book in advance, and he hadn't connected that I was actually the host of the radio show. So he comes into the studio, looks at the book, and goes, "That's a really good book." And I said, "Thank you. I know."
Awesome.
It was kind of funny. Anyway, and Brian Tracy said, "This practical, powerful book shows you how to liberate yourself from perhaps the greatest of all burdens to success." So anyway, please read it. Please take me up on that offer. I promise you that opting in there, you're not going to be getting a whole bunch of sales pitches. What you do is you get some notices about when I post my blogs, and as I'm writing my second book, The Creator's Code, you'll get some of that stuff ahead of time. So this goes to the story, and that you had started, which is a little bit, we're out of order a little bit, but I'll go fast. Short version is this. I took my facilitator training with a transformational company back when I was 22 years old. It was a little bit of a crazy experience. I took the training, basically went at the end of the training, was sent away. I came back. I got my foot in the door. I begged for a chance because I believed I'd found my mission in life. And they hired me basically because I wouldn't go away. Yeah, I don't know if any of you have ever adopted pets that way, but that's sort of how it transpired. And they kept they didn't really send me away, but they kept giving me tasks that were undoable, meaning that nobody had ever done them before. And they said, well, you know what, if you go and sell X, Y, and Z, you can stay. And then I'd go do that. And then it's like, well, if you can solo in personal best level 3 in 2 courses, then you can facilitate. And I'd always just say yes. And what I'd find out afterwards is that they'd been trying to do this, or other people had attempted, and nobody had ever attempted it before. So that all led me to this particular spot of, there was a time where myself and a group of facilitators, it was then a nonprofit society, decided we were going to take over the organization, and we get fired. every single one of us. It was the
Huh.
craziest thing in my life, and I don't know if any of you have ever had the experience of getting fired, but it is quite entertaining. And what's funny about it, and I'll just tell you a funny little story about it, is that I come from a small rural part of Canada called Saskatchewan. The truth about Saskatchewan is this, to try and put some perspective around this, is that there are more cattle in Saskatchewan than there are people. And its geographic size is that, all of California, by the way, has about the same population as Canada, but all of California would fit in about 2/3 of Saskatchewan. Okay.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. So the truth about Saskatchewan is this: is people from there work hard. And I remember being a young man, having a young man in Saskatchewan. People there drink a fair amount. I'm having a beer with a friend of mine. And I remember us having this conversation. With my work ethic, if I ever got fired, that would be like the end of the world. Something terrible is happening. It's like 2012 or whatever you happen to believe is, but it ain't going to be good. So I actually end up getting fired, and I remember being so stunned that this was even possible that I couldn't sleep for an entire day. So sleep for an entire night. So I actually get up, go back to the organization that now had absolutely no employees, show up. There's a board of directors there who look at me and whisper amongst each other, think of them like huddling, going, one of them pops their head up and goes like, you don't have a job. I said, yeah, I caught that part last night. Then they huddle again together and it's like, and it's like, well, why are you here? And I say, well, short version is what happened last night was inappropriate. I don't know what needs to happen. I just know that it wasn't okay. So I'm here to help. So how that turned out was this: is that I went to work that day answering the phones, and in short order, I bought the company. I cut a deal that said I'll pay off the debt in return for the rights and assets, which at that stage of the game was 3 recipe boxes of people who were interested in the course, 50 chairs and 2 music systems. And what transpired from there, by the way, I'm now 23 years old. I own a transformational company, and I struggle for 5 freaking years. And when I say struggle,
You're 20. Oh, you're 23 then. Is that what you said?
23 then. I've been at this for
Okay.
25 years.
Okay.
But my first 5 years, goodness gracious, I got to tell you, they were unbelievably difficult. We didn't have systems. We didn't have databases. I mean, this is, I created a database that on a Macintosh that was strung together with a daisy chain phone line, because at that stage of the game, the PCs really, for the most part, didn't network, and if they did, it was with something called token ring that cost 10 times more than the computers. Like it was just a crazy thing. And the reason I tell you this is that, number one, I need you to understand that for the last decade, I've had a very nice, tidy, 7-figure a year plus business without working too hard. But that didn't happen by accident, and it certainly wasn't a cakewalk. And if you're at the beginning of your coaching and training practice, I truly, genuinely get where you've been. Like, I get it, I get it, I get it. But here's one of
Yeah.
the things: I could share many details of the struggle, but they're not really important to today's call. Uh, what I want to share with you is what I did. And if there's one thing that I'm really proud of, um, is that I invested, I tested, I experimented, you name it, I did it. There is virtually nothing under the sun that you could imagine in this industry that I have not engaged in some way, shape, or form, in an attempt to make my way, figure out what works, and create and contribute value to my clients. Here's just brief examples. I'm not going to go through them all, but I've had my own radio program. I've produced television. I have a television series that was broadcast internationally. I co-host and produce infomercials, both for myself and for others. I designed and developed a custom database a decade before, Infusionsoft and all those sorts of things even existed. I've developed and designed trainings. Like, it's just anything and everything. But the part I want to be clear about is this: is that I've had both amazing successes and I have had some amazing fiascos and yard sales on wheels. But the truth is, I always learned. And I tell you all of this for this reason: is that I really do want today to be as experiential as possible, meaning that I will answer any questions you have. I will give you the straight goods. I need you to be clear about this. In this whole process, I have nothing to sell. I just really want to serve and support, and I want to serve and support you. Um, so whatever it's going to take, I'm going to share with you what I have done that has been stunning, what I've done that's been terrible, and there's nothing I'm not willing to tell you the truth about what worked and what didn't. So that's the whole point of all of that. Actually, I just go back. Should point out what I'm most proud of through all of that stuff is this is my dear lovely wife, and get my pen back here. So she and I actually are high school sweethearts, and her name is Corey. And this, of course, is Wyatt. He is my 7-year-old, and he is a character and a half. And this is Jackson, who just turned 2 years old, and he's a ton of fun. We just recently moved into our sort of dream family home that I really quite like, and it looks nothing like that now that we have a 2-year-old. Imagine if you've ever gone to an incredibly messy and insane play school or something like that. That's more what the house actually looks like now. One of my hobbies is I restore and collect old weird cars. So that is one of the things that I love dearly. And my point in showing you this is nothing more than, is not about la-di-da what he did. It's about this. You have a gift, you have a capacity, and you care about serving and supporting other people. And I give you my word that you can create a business that works, that supports your client, that supports you, and you can create wealth, you can create contribution, you can create a life that you're proud of. And good Lord, if I can do it starting at 23 years without a clue, and I seriously mean that, without a clue, and make my way through, good Lord, you can too. No ifs, no ands, no buts. Now, here's the thing, is that it took me the better part of 15 years to actually get to the spot of being financially free, to have a system that works, all the rest of it. But the honest goodness truth is I figured it out primarily on my own through trial and error. You don't have to do that. There are a multitude of people, me and a ton of others, now who are willing to share the path. So
are
that's my
you saying you have some shortcuts for us so we don't have to wait 15 years doing what you did?
yes, 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 yes. Because I really think that anyone with some skill, some capacity, and all sorts of things should be able to do what took me 15 years. I think in 3 to 5.
Okay.
Now,
Okay. So
it could be faster, but and the reason I say 3 to 5, I just want to be clear, Anne, is that um, the get rich quick model and all this stuff that gets floated around is like, I just want to set that kind of stuff aside, which is a real business with real work, with a real business model, which I'm going to share with you today that transformed my life and business. Um, Still takes a couple of years to execute, and
right.
and anybody who tells you different uh, probably has a different agenda, straight
Yeah.
up.
Well, I have to tell you one of the things I always tell my coaches. I always say, look, if you have in your life vision that you're going to make $1 million the first year, I think we need to have a little chat because the, and the first year is figuring it out. The second year too is working it out, and hopefully the third year is rocking it out. But I mean I know from experience that those first couple of years are a lot of hard works and some ups and downs as you try and figure things out.
Exactly right. So the last thing I'm going to say about me, and then we're going to get on with the show, which is all of this led together to 2011, me asking what I think is perhaps one of the best questions I've asked my entire life, which is, given all of my experience and resources, what's the highest and best contribution that I can make for the rest of my life, as I understand it today? And the answer was pretty simple and clear: support the legions of coaches and trainers to contribute their unique gifts in meaningful, profitable, and sustainable ways, leveraging all of my resources and experiences. And of course, that gave birth to the creator's code. So um, that was longer about me than I wanted it to be. But I guess before we sort of dive into other content and questions and those sorts of things, is there anything that I could answer for anyone before we roll? Because again, my purpose is to provide the answers to your questions and serve you in terms of where you're at with your business and what you're working on.
Well, I don't have any yet, but I
Okay.
might in a
All
minute.
right, then let's roll onward. Okay. I want to make sure. So here is the fundamental piece that I just wanted to start with, Anne, and this is one of the ideas that I just would love to, if there was a magic wand that I was endowed with, that I could have one magic trick that it did, it would be this: is that every single person who is a coach, who is a healer, who is a trainer, who is in the world trying to serve and support humanity, is that I would do my best to do my magic trick, bonk them on the head, and I would get them to stop trading time for money. Now, the thing about this is, going back to your statement about, $1 million in the first year, is that it's always fascinating to me when people talk about what they want to earn and how they want to nail it and all those sorts of things. when we start getting to the nuts and bolts of, if you're going to trade time for money, what somebody's operational income has to be just to make simply $100,000, let alone $1,000,000. The truth of the matter is this, is that if you can charge 500 bucks an hour, goodness gracious, $100,000 is only 200 hours. But if you're at 100 bucks an hour, suddenly that's 1,000 hours. So we've got to stop trading time for money. And I want to be just clear, and I'm going to beat this over the head as much as I can, is that there is I'm going to say it's a lie. There's a lie that says, we decide we're going to become coaches, and we start doing a little bit of calculations, and we go, geez, if I could make $100 an hour, that's pretty fantastic, because at $100 an hour, that could mean I could make like $600 a day, and we all of a sudden, it looks very, very attractive. But the truth of the matter is this, and we'll see when we get to the business model piece, is that for us to get a $100 an hour client takes, in most cases, 4 or 5, 6 hours. Now, most people don't want to acknowledge that's true, but it's 4 or 5 or 6 hours. So the truth of the matter is this, is that because most coaches, trainers, healers aren't very good at the marketing conversation, we do a whole variety of other pieces around it that, please hear this, take longer than it needs to and cost us more money. So the first thing that we've got to just beat through is we've got to stop doing that and stop fantasizing about an hourly rate, because the hourly rate has to actually be looked at from the perspective of all of the time I put into my business. And if I'm working in my business for 40 hours a week and only, let's say 10 hours of those are actually coaching, well, then the truth of the matter is that's not $100 an hour, not even close. So the piece that I get frustrated with and sometimes judgmental and self-righteous and is that coaching schools, people who are interested in coaching, people who are surfing the web looking for coaching stuff, often do not have a real business model that breaks the time for money bind. And there's only a handful of things that do it. And by the way, and your process of having the online tool is one of the ways that breaks that bind, which is one of the reasons why I so appreciate you, the Ideal Life Vision process, that as a tool for a coach who, frankly, let's be clear about it, may not have the time, the energy, the inclination to actually design a system or a process that begins to break the time for money piece. So I love your system and process on that note.
Well,
But
thank you.
but let's be clear about it. Even the fact that you have that, and even the fact that you have a bunch of coaches using it, many of them still don't understand at a core level how powerful that is, and still keep thinking about time for money. Would you agree with that? Is that a common experience you see with your coaches?
Yeah, I mean, we think in terms, of, oh, if I just get 6 clients a month or 4 clients a month, and then they're kind of thinking, okay, that's 6 times, $400 each or whatever. But it's still kind of a, hourly rate, at the bottom level.
It,
So,
it really, really is. And let's be clear about this. And I want to, we've been conditioned with this since feudal times, right? We find, as human beings, we got off starvation approaches on the farms, and finally got to go to the city and to work in a factory where if I put in 8 hours, I was certain that I was going to get, or I guess way back then it was 12 hours. If I put in half my day, I was certain that I was going to get to eat. Well, it seemed like a pretty good deal at the time. It's just that we are no longer in the industrial age. We are in the information age. And if we live in the information age, going back to the industrial age to trade our time for money is not wise. So what we've got to do to begin to shift this is answer this question. So if we do not trade time for money, then what do we trade? And I'd love to hear, gang, if you could type in a couple of answers. What do you think we are trading, or what must we trade to break this time for money bind? Type it in on the side. First person with the right answer, Anne's going to do something fantastic for her.
yeah, we'll think of that in a second.
I'm teasing you. I'm totally teasing you. Energy, absolutely. Ideas, absolutely. Information, our know-how. Value. So Aaron, I don't know who Aaron is, but Aaron, you're brilliant. Thank you for the brilliant piece. Now, somebody else put results, info, relevance. All of those things are on the right track. Beer. Well, in fact, I think, Aaron, you may have just won beer. Who knows? Now, on a serious note, though, we must start thinking about value. And this is one of the pieces that, this movement that I'm working on, which is called the Creator's Code. There are 12 fundamental pillars around the Creator's Code, and one of them is I create more than I consume. And when we're talking about creating more than we consume, that is all about value. And the truth is, as a society, we actually are not very good at this. And what I mean by that is that we live in a society that is more interested in a quick fix. We're more interested in what's instant. We're more interested in what's cheap, or what we perceive we can afford, than we are in value. And by the way, it is conditioned everywhere, absolutely everywhere, as our lives and information and resources all speed up. The funny thing is, often the value and the grounding around value has been getting less and less, which is a little bit on the crazy side. So, value. Each of us has to figure out what our value is. And by the way, here's a little hint in terms of, I've worked with entrepreneurs at all levels, right from startup all the way up to one of my clients is a billionaire. So I want to be clear about this. Most of the time, what the answer to this question is in terms of what our clients value, we as the provider have no clue. We are some of the worst people on planet Earth to try to determine our value. We have a little warped view of it because it's generally something that comes pretty easy to us. It's generally something we've been doing since the beginning of time. It's generally something that we look at, oh, that little silly thing, anybody can do that. But the truth is, anybody cannot do that. It happens to be part of your unique value. So we've got to stop thinking about time, and we've got to start thinking about value. But please hear this, not value from our perspective, but value from our client's perspective. And that is a difficult piece because most of us have a little bit of a blind spot there. So the big question is, how do we price based on value? Now, if we are going to price based on value, not our time, what are some of the key elements to that? And I'd love to hear again, I'm going to ask you just type in your point of view. What do we begin to do? Do you have a couple of examples and stories? Absolutely, I do. And I promise I will get to that, Jude. I just want to make sure that we have a little conversation about pricing around value. Well, yes, we have to find out our expertise. There's no question about that. It's a tough question, isn't it? Talents, certainly that is related to it. If we think of the value, we would think of how much we would be willing to pay for the benefit, absolutely. What life changes our clients make, what pain we resolve. There we go, we're getting warmer. Our quality, absolutely. Okay, so we're heading in the right direction. I'm going to give you some ideas and some answers, but I want you just to play with this for a moment or two. So, a brilliant young entrepreneur, she is a health coach, and she actually specializes in coaching a variety of people who are diagnosed with very specific types of cancers. Okay, and I want to be very clear about this. This is not a catch-all panacea or any of those sorts of things. She is very clear about there are some particular types of cancer that she has had as high as 90% success rate in assisting her clients to get that cancer into remission, and has often had clients where it just seems to have disappeared over a span of time. Like she's been at this for decades. Now, what's fascinating about this is that and somebody said results, yes. Now, her coaching, she prices herself. Let me rephrase this. She priced in the past herself based upon what she thought was the competitive rate for a nutritional and holistic counselor. And I have no idea what that is in your area of the world, but up here that's around 75 to 150 bucks an hour. But let's be clear about this, is that she was treating life-threatening cancers with an unbelievably high success rate for these three things that she really focused on. Now, what is the value of her coaching if in fact it saves somebody's life and or radically improves the quality of their life while they're coping with their illness and disease? Is that $75 an hour? Is that $150 an hour? What is the value for that? And what would somebody be willing to pay? Now, please understand we have a radically different health system here than you guys have. But that was an absolute and utter crime for her to pay, well, pardon me, for her to be paid $75 an hour to $150 an hour for something that had the capacity to save somebody's life. Now, in the same breath, I sometimes do couples coaching slash counseling, and sometimes that is driven by a couple wanting to stay together. Sometimes that's driven by a couple wanting to separate. Now, a couple of things about that is that if the couple is on rocky ground and they want to revitalize their relationship, they want to open up the lines of communication, they want to start evolving and growing and making a life and creating a life together again, how much is that worth? So is that worth, a regular $500 an hour rate, or is it really worth half the person's net worth? Because that's really what they're going to pay with. So we've got to start thinking about it from the perspective, please understand this, our client's point of view about what the value proposition is. Now, Jude, does that help you give a couple of examples about understanding the difference between the hourly rate and what the value is in the eyes of our client? And any other comments, questions related to that? I want to be really clear before we just jump on to the next piece here. And thoughts, comments?
I don't know. It's good. I mean, I'm just listening. I'm liking it. So
Okay.
I'm taking notes myself and thinking about this. So
Perfect. So, and I don't know if any of you are in the process of doing business with Anne, those sorts of things. I'll give you a little bit of warning. I would do business with her really, really fast, because as our friendship grows, she's going to be increasing her prices.
I know you've already told me you're like the value. I mean, yeah, keep warning him. Keep warning him.
Well, it's
Like,
true.
yeah, he keeps telling me, everyone that's out there, he's like, really? There is so much more value here than $99, which I will tell you, I know.
Yes.
So yeah, let's just keep hanging out and it'll be a little higher soon, right?
Okay, so are you, as somebody had said, so are you saying that each client is priced differently? Now, that's a really good question, Asha, and it depends upon the level of what we're going to call the ladder of ascension, which when I get to the business model will make sense. So generally speaking, Asha, what transpires is this, is that there are some lower level offerings they're all the same. They're part of building relationship, they're part of contributing value, they're part of developing a meaningful long-term relationship with a client. But the point at which we get to, and I'm just going to use the health consultant, the point at which somebody is coming into somebody's house, watching what it is that they eat, attending um, uh, doctor's appointments with them, going through all those pieces. It is a very custom, high-end experience that, frankly, could not be packaged in one fell swoop. It's just not the same. Absolutely not the same. So at the low end, standard offerings. At the high end, very custom offerings with a very unique value proposition and a very unique charging piece. Um, Somebody was saying, so worth half the net worth. What I was being a little bit of a smartass about that, just to be perfectly clear. So what I was talking about is that if somebody goes through a divorce, generally speaking, the divorce costs them half their net worth. So I'm being somewhat facetious, but on the other side of that, I've absolutely had coaching clients that, in terms of their separation and how they negotiated their separation, probably saved them $100,000 in legal fees. So suddenly, my rate, which most people would say, "Oh my goodness, that's a lot of money for some coaching," compared to them going to court and fighting and stretching out a battle over a span of what averages here probably 3.5 to 4 years to get something done in 18 months for a few $1,000 with a couple of rubber stamps, as opposed to lawyers consuming $100,000 of their net worth as a couple, makes all suddenly the value proposition is radically different. Does that make more sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
does to me.
Okay, perfect. So what we've got to start doing, and we can't really have this conversation until we stop this, I'm going to say, idiotic and terrible and ridiculous business model of, well, I'm going to give you a 9-session package and my normal rate is $200 and that's $1,800, but you're going to commit up front so you can have it for $1,497. And then we go, well, that's not terrible for the amount of hours, because if I had a job. But it always precludes or excludes, pardon me, the time, the effort, the energy, the fact that you are now the marketer, you are now the bookkeeper, you are now the, it's inappropriate to think that way. So I hope that makes some sense. And I just want to make sure I go through the questions so I don't miss anything. Quick review: low level offering, standard, high level, based on custom pricing. Absolutely. All good, all good. And away we go. All right. So we're just going to move on because I know that we're a little bit off, but it depends on your business model in timing wise. So let's jump to business models that work. And just to be clear about this, please feel free. I want you to scribble all this stuff down as we go through it. I will go through it as quickly but as comprehensively as we can. I need you to understand that I spend an entire weekend on this one sheet of paper, on this one model. And I give you my word, my education, formal education, is in business administration. And this, if you get it and can apply it, is more powerful than most MBAs. And just to be perfectly clear about it, I've hired a bunch of MBAs. They're cheap, they're easy, it's not that bad, and most of them don't get this. So if you get this, this will be a good thing, I promise you. Now, I'm going to go over what are the 6 fundamental pillars of business models that work. A bunch of these you know, I'm willing to bet some of them you don't. So here's point number 1. This is the most complex component of any business. I mean, there are literally only a handful of businesses where this is not the most difficult part. Healthcare, by the way, being one of them. We've got enough people dying and in trouble that they seem to have a pretty good lineup. But for the most part, if you're not in that business, you have a very complex and difficult job generating leads. Now, I'd love to hear anybody's comment. Has anybody ever had a different experience of that? It's like, oh man, I got more leads than I can possibly take care of. I don't know who's interested. I don't know where they are. I don't know how to find them. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. Just fill me in. But lead generation is the top of the list. And let's be clear about it. Most coach training programs, the ICF, the Coach International Coaching Federation, they have done a better job in the last few years. But when they first started, they almost didn't do any of it in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to give you the overview, then I'm going to come back around and go through this so you get how all the pieces fit together. So after lead generation, we've got somebody who's interested. Then what is the next most important part of our business model? And by the way, somebody write fast, type it in, see if you think you got it. What happens after we generate a lead? First person is going to win more beer. Sales. So we're absolutely on the right track. It is conversion. And I want to be really clear about this. One of the pieces, and who here, by the way, has ever had this experience? It's like, you know what? I actually do seem to have quite an abundance of leads. My problem is I can't seem to get my leads to convert in the way that I want. So, perhaps I have, and I'm just going to make up numbers here. I've got 100 leads, but my conversion, I'm only getting 3% of them. I'm only getting 5% of them. Anybody ever have that issue? Qualifying the sale. Did I get the beer? Somebody. Getting the sale. So I want to be clear about this. So you're absolutely on the right track in terms of getting the sale. But I want to be clear. There's a ton of different ways to convert. Okay, and I like to measure conversion. Just to be clear about this, with money, because it puts some money on the line. Although there's lots of ways to convert. So collecting their name and email address can be a type of conversion. Getting them to attend a webinar could be a type of conversion. Getting them to come to a live event could be a type of conversion. But let's be clear about this, is that if you are having difficulty converting, it is almost always because your lead generation is not specific enough to your avatar. And what we mean by an avatar is your ideal client. I'm having trouble with my tablet here, gang. So if it looks a little goofy, that's why. So we'll come back to that in a moment or two. Now,
So stop for 1 second.
Sure.
So you're saying that people are struggling with conversion because the leads weren't the right people in the first place?
Over and over and over and over again. And inevitably, when I get a coaching client who comes in and says, you know what, I think things are working really fantastic. And I'll give you a very specific example. So there's a young man, Eastern Canada, running a transformational company, and he had 42 people at one of his events, and he only sold 3 of them. And it's like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? So we go through everything that happens. And that's like, wait a second, we got to figure out who are the people in the room. So we back up to who are the people in the room. They were not his target market. They weren't even close to his target market. He's trying to sell transformation to a bunch of people that he got through the door through a business building networking piece. Now, the people, if he'd been pitching or selling a get rich quick scheme, hell, he'd have converted them all. But the leads were not consistent with what the offer was because he didn't identify who his avatar is and who it is that he wanted to talk to. Somebody said, hey, come talk to my group, because they were looking for a freebie speaker. He converts a bunch of them into coming to an event, but they weren't aligned. And over and over and over again, if you're having a conversion issue, the very first question I would ask you to ask is, are they the right people for what I am trying to sell? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And over and over again, we get people, it's like, oh, if I got a lead generation machine for you, it's fantastic. Yes, but are they the right people is the first question you got to ask. Now, delivery. I'm going to make a wager and a bet that everyone here, they're pretty fantastic coaches, or you're pretty damn good at whatever it is that you do, and you're exceptional at it. I do not want anyone here to believe or to think that the key to their business is focusing more on delivery. You need another certification. You need another course. You need another. You know what? I'm not saying anything other than get out there, do great work, and don't worry about ongoing letters behind your name or any of those sorts of things. Now, clearly, get the training you need, but do not believe for a second that if I get better at delivery, my business will grow. That is the worst advice on planet Earth. The old build a better mousetrap, it's simply not true. You need to figure this out. Now, I have a quick question for you. Give me some ideas of how many hours or years did you take of training and support to become good at delivering what it is that you do? So how many hours or years did you take getting good at that? And I want you to just type it over in the window so I can see, get a sense of who's what, who, what, where, when, and how. So how many years did it take for you to get great at delivering what it is that you do? So hours or years?
What's your answer? What would you say that about yourself?
Oh, good God. That's a great question. So, honest to goodness, I would say for the first decade of my business, I worked like 2 full-time jobs. And I think that it was a decade before I started really getting pretty fantastic at it. But the truth is, I've been engaged. I mean, that's how we met. If I'm not at the front of somebody's room, I'm learning at the front of my own room. I'm in somebody else's room learning. So I, to this day, am fully engaged in it. So it's got to be tens of thousands of hours, like tens of thousands of hours. So 9 years, 7 years, lots of 15 years. Okay. So here's the thing that I want you to understand is that delivery is the simplest part of the model. This is the easy part. Now, if this is the easy part and it took you, and I'm just going to use, who would put 15 years? Larry. Larry, I'm just going to use your example if I can. So if it took you 15 years to get great at this, and this is the easy part, then how much time, effort, and energy should we actually put into the difficult part, which is the lead generation and the conversion? Has anybody here put 15 years into their marketing? Has anybody here put 15 years into refining their conversion techniques? Has anybody here put any relative proportion, even a 50-50 balance, 50% on I learned how to get great at this, and now I'm putting 50% into actually building my business, which is the lead generation and conversion processes to actually create clients? Anybody in that realm where they're at 50%? All my experience contributes. Because the truth of it, here's the honest goodness truth of this, and this is the result of a straw poll that I've been doing for the past decade with my high-level clients, with my starting clients, all the rest of it. Here's what it usually boils down to, is some version of about 5%. And those are the people who think they're really moving and shaking. Man, I'm engaged in generating leads. I'm engaged in conversion. I'm engaged in building my business. Man, look at me go. And the truth of the matter is that most of them, 5% and under, when this part here, we spend tens of thousands. Like on my street, there's 8 doctors on my street, most of whom spend, in some of the specializations, over $500,000 just getting their doctorate. Now, clearly, they didn't have to worry too much about the lead generation in that particular business. But in our industry, Not many people go along. 4 years into marketing alongside, love that. So here's the deal. I just want you to understand that this is the part that makes or breaks the business. It is not this part. So these are the three that everybody knows. I need to find somebody who's interested. I need to convert them into a client. I need to deliver a fantastic product and service. Yahoo. That's not rocket science by any stretch of the imagination, even though the truth is most people still don't do it particularly well because, unfortunately, the emphasis goes here. And that is not where we want the emphasis. Now, any wild guesses? If you did this, you're in business, you've got clients, you've been generating leads, you've been converting them, you've been giving them a fantastic quality experience. Now, the next piece that I have to ask you is, in terms of a business model, what should follow? What's the very next pillar? So we've got 3 pillars of 6. What's the next pillar? Anybody have a brainwave about what should come after this? Upsell? So Allison, you're on the right track. What type of upsell specifically? Because there's a very important distinction here. Referrals? Kathy, hold on to that because that is absolutely coming. Continue to make offers to up-level your people. Yeah. So all of those things are true, but there's a very important distinction here. And this is one of the things that I want everyone to write down, and I want you to really put your head and heart around it, which is this. It is not enough to simply upsell. You must have in your business model something that generates continuity. So let me ask you this question, is what is continuity? Because sometimes people aren't perfectly clear about what this means. So what is continuity? Write it down as fast as you can. At-home process, provide more value, retention, all on the right track, but there's something very specific. So think about your internet provider, think about your utility provider, think about those sorts of things from the perspective of continuity. Razor blades, yes. Follow-up processes, automation, being relevant, being consistent, all on the right track, ongoing, reliable. Okay, let me be very specific. Continuity is this. You sell, oh my tablet, I'm going to have to take this thing in. You sell one time and you bill many. So here's the distinction, and this is a monumentally powerful distinction, is that upselling is an ongoing make work project. And it is not necessarily that easy for people, particularly who might have a little bit of resistance to selling in some way, shape, or form. However, continuity is this. It is when you become a utility to your client. When you are that service, that person, that experience that they simply wouldn't even dream of going without. Like none of you woke up today and said, geez, I wonder if I really need internet today. Because maybe I could just cancel my internet and I could do away with it for a little bit. Maybe I'll get it back later, but I don't need it that much. Or did any of you think, for a little bit today that perhaps you didn't need any electricity to your house, that you were just going to do without electricity today because that would be, not 100% necessary. After all, it's warm, it's pretty bright, you might not need it. So continuity models, and somebody was asking for an example. So there's a multitude of continuity examples. So the most profitable companies on planet Earth are continuity models. So first and foremost, cell phones. That is one of the largest under the sun right now. Data and media, internet, absolutely huge and unbelievable right now. But if you think about it from the perspectives of ongoing education, memberships, and any membership model is a continuity model. So if any of you have memberships at golf clubs or country clubs or any of those sorts of things, there are continuity models everywhere. It is one of the reasons why utilities are one of the, for coaching, absolutely. No more packages. Oh my God, retainer only. Whoa, super excited to hear all this. Yes, that is one of the ways in which you could do it. So for coaching, I have something called an inner circle, and the inner circle gets ongoing access to me through webinars, gets ongoing access to me through some of my digital content. They get online access to me via some phone calls. So there's a bunch of different mechanics and means by which that transpires. They get special access when I'm writing new content and materials. They get to come and attend my workshops on a consistent, regular basis, and it's just for a fixed fee. So I don't continue having this conversation with them about, hey, I've got a new workshop and seminar. Do you want to come buy it? There are a group of people that I have become a utility for, and they simply give me money and show up at fundamentally everything I do. And send me a note saying, hey, I read your blog post about the 12 pillars. I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. Could you serve and support me? And I say, yes, we've got something coming up. Get your butt down there. So there's a multitude of ways for this to occur, and the better you use technology, the easier it is. Does that answer the question in terms of coaching, Allison, or do you need a tighter example? Okay, now here's the other part that I want to be clear about this, and Anne, you and I were having this conversation, so I'm just going to throw it in right here, is that for whatever reason, people resist continuity. And when I say people, I'm talking about both our clients and us as business people. But I need you to understand something that is very, very important. And I'm going to recommend a book to you, and I would like every single one of you on this call to get out and to read the book. It is exceptional and important and vital, and it is this: Change or Die. Now, the reason why Change or Die is so important, I'm going to give you a 2-second rundown to it, and if any of you want more information about it, you can ask Anne to send send you a link to a video where I do about a 15-minute description of what this really means. But here's the long and the short of it, is that Change or Die comes up with this scientific research that people after open heart surgery, only 1 in 10 can actually make the lifestyle change that will save their life. And just to be clear about this, these are people who their doctor said to them, change or die. And in the face of that, 90% of them, consciously or less than consciously, cannot make the change. Now, he does a bunch of research around this entire process. And when I say he, his name is Alan Deutschman for Change or Die. And what he discovers is that there are 3 R's. There are 3 R's that are necessary for any long-term, meaningful, and significant change. And the 3 R's, hopefully my tablet's going to cooperate with me here. I'm going to write them up here. Yeah. So they are, first and foremost, goodness gracious, I don't know what is going on. I did just upgrade software. Maybe it's just not liking it. The first one is relate, meaning that you have to be a member of a community over a long span of time to actually sustain the changes. Then there has to be a scenario where there is repeatability, meaning that over and over and over we hear the same message. And we as human beings in our fast-paced society, we'd like to think that we know stuff because we heard it once. We watched it on Oprah. We read a book. It doesn't work that way. And the last one is reframe. We've got to relate, repeat, reframe. And it is only in the presence of these 3 elements that we as human beings successfully make change. So he followed a whole group, and I think it was about 350 people who had open heart surgery. 9 out of 10 could not sustain the change, and they ultimately died. He followed another group approximately the same size, except they had these 3 pieces in place: repeat, relate, reframe. Get my writing going here. And guess what happened? Over a span of 3 years, the stats, instead of 90% failed, went to 78% successfully made the change. 78%. So here's what I've come to believe, just to be perfectly clear about this. And I have 40,000 graduates all over God's green earth, mainly in Western Canada. But out of those 40,000 graduates, here's what I know. The vast majority of them didn't stick with the changes because they didn't have the long-term support. Because for the first 15 years of my business, I didn't have a continuity model to provide that support so they could engage in a community over a longer span of time, so they could hear the messages over and over again, so that they could get reminded of what that reframing was. So here's the thing. If you're a coach, you must have continuity because you've got to keep them in the 3 R's for them to actually have a shot at making any changes. Does that make any sense? And are there any questions or comments about that? Because I just think that is one of the most important things under the sun for us as coaches to get. They can't change. And by the way, the time frame that was necessary for the 3 R's to get through was 18 to 24 months. So I'm going to be a little pokey to any of you. If you're selling a 3-month package to most of your clients, or even a 6-month package, or even a 12-month package, you're frankly most likely doing them a disservice. They need longer support. And this continuity piece is one of the ways in which you do it.
And so you sell them so are you saying maybe to sell them a package, another one, and ultimately, because I mean, some people like to test drive in the beginning though, so they got to
Totally.
have a chance to get to know you. But then once they love you, then that's totally when they would get into the continuity, wouldn't they?
Exactly right. And so, I mean, we do that in two different ways. We have something called the gift, which is a 3-day transformational process. And at the end of it, it's like, look, you know what we stand for, you know what we do, and you also know the science. So if you're really going to make a change, jump into a creation circle. And that's a continuity model that's led professionally by a coach and a trainer who leads groups of 10 using our fundamental content and putting their unique edge on it. You know, so if they happen to be a health and wellness coach, then they focus on health and wellness using the 12 pillars of the code. And so we actually build it together. So come check out the gift and then jump into a creation circle. We also do it the other way, which is very low dollars, jump into a creation circle, then come check out the gift. But we just have gotten to the spot here where we will no longer sell what we do without people being engaged in longer term support, because we just say, look, that's not what we do. We're not raw motivation. We're not interested in participating at that level. If you're committed to creating a change in your life, you're our people and let's make it happen. But let's not BS each other about how that's going to occur or how it's not. So yeah, give them lots of ways to test you out, lots of ways to evaluate, is there alignment? But if there is alignment and they're committed, then jump in and let's make this happen for everyone.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So next part is the ladder of ascension. And Kathy, I think this is what you know. I don't think it was Kathy, actually. Kathy, you were the next one up. The ladder of ascension is simply this. This is what we were talking about earlier when it comes to designing our business model. The business model must have easy and simple points of entry where people can get to, exactly as you were just saying, try you out. So this is just a little bit of money, you know, at the bottom. Believe it or not, that's a dollar sign. And this is a lot of money at the top. And down here, these are things that are easy. They're info products. So that could be a book. You know, I gave each of you a book. So that is another way for you to get to know who I am, what I do, how I support, what occurs. And my tablet is completely dying, so I'm going to stop using it. But this is books. This is info products. You know, your product, even though, you know, its price point and those sorts of things, and I love your product, it shouldn't be at the bottom of this ladder, but with its current price point, it is. It should be like midway up the ladder, my humble opinion. But
No.
towards the bottom are tools and processes like that, and then we move up, and then we put them into you know, group seminars and workshops and programs. As we go higher up the list, then we can put them into one-on-one unique programs, get them to the top of the list. And this is where most coaches have their ladder of ascension completely backwards. They start trading their personal time for a low dollar figure. There should be an entire step and processes and ways for people to communicate and build a relationship with them, that when they get to the top of the ladder, that's where they have the capacity to get you, please hear this, one-on-one, not trading time for money, but one-on-one with a unique program designed to fulfill the value proposition that your clients want. And that is not something that they can buy on your website. That is not something that is an info product. That is something that you're going to sit down with them and co-create and charge what it is worth, not some silly time for money routine. Now, any questions about the ladder of ascension and what the ladder of ascension means and how you apply it to your business? All good? Now, this is the piece, by the way, I just want to make this point. This is the piece where most people get confused. They think that ladder of ascension and continuity are the same thing. They are different. Every single one of these is a different rung on the ladder, and you've got to think about this from the perspective. And make no mistake about it, there are some similarities to this in terms of a sales funnel. Although I like to flip it from the, you know, they're falling down through to, we are stepping up, and the reason being is we are stepping up in commitment, we are stepping up in price, we are stepping up in terms of the depth of our relationship, we're stepping up in terms of the quality and the value that we are contributing, which is why, to me,
Right.
we've turned it in a different way altogether.
So let me ask you this, and
Yep.
we might have to do this together, and it's putting you totally on the spot, but just as like a concrete example, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
all about, you know, concrete things. Let's take this as a ideal life vision, you know, certified coach,
Yes.
and let's just come up with something specific, starting at the bottom and maybe going up, just like giving them an idea.
Fabulous.
We do that.
Sure. Sure. Love that.
So is the very bottom, is that considered a freebie, or are you just talking like low priced things?
It could be either or. And to me, this is a great opportunity for a white paper. This is a great opportunity for a blog entry that actually gets them to trade their name and email for some value contribution in some way, shape, or form. Now, to me, I would want to know what my unique, could we make up, so I can do a better job of this, could we make up an ideal life vision coach that would have a specialty in what? And this will just help me be more specific. So they might have a specialty in,
You know what? Let's just use that as the tool. So they're a life coach that's just helping people get specifically clear on their goals. So they're helping them just with achieving goals. So
okay,
life
perfect.
coach / life vision
Okay.
coach.
Now, may I go on a little tangent just before I answer this, Anne?
Yep.
If there's anyone here on the line who is calling themselves a life coach, stop it now. Don't do it. And I want to be
No,
really
I
clear.
know.
I want to be really, really clear about this. Is that
I wanted to. I have to just say one funny little story.
okay,
I was with both of my girls, and they were in the corner whispering with their friends, and I heard one of them say, "So, what does your mom do?" And both my girls said, "Oh, she's a life coach." And I snapped my head around and I said, "What did you just call me?" And they're like, "A life coach." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And they're like, their faces, they're like, "You're not?" "Yeah, I thought you were a life coach." And they're young, they're naive, they're in their like early 20s, and I'm like, I haven't called myself that for 5 years, and they're like, well, what are you then?
and the truth is, you might be a life coach. We just never say those words. We want to, again, communicate with the value proposition, and we want to target our ideal avatar in that messaging. So I see that Jude has put down inventors. Okay, so if you're a coach with an inventor, I love that. So to me, I would do some, and Jude, I think you and I even had a little bit of this conversation, but at the very low end of the ladder, if I was targeting inventors, I would do some piece um, of a downloadable worksheet, of a little webinar that leads them to answer a series of questions. Hell, you could set it up in SurveyMonkey, which would be the CBB filtering test. And the CBB filtering test, their value proposition in terms of what they would be getting out of it, is that they would begin to learn of, could it really be big? In their head, they think it could be big, but could it really be big? And we're going to filter them through a series of questions, processes, all the rest of it. We're going to ask them, somewhere in the neighborhood of, I'm going to just try yeah, it did work. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $19 for the could be big assessment. So the could be big assessment is something that goes online. It's something that Jude never has to take any time from. It's answered in SurveyMonkey. She sets up a program that says, out of all of the people who buy the could be big assessment, what transpires is, if they meet this certain criteria, then they move on to the next step, which that next step could be a phone call. That next step could be an offering for an online course. I think I'd still, at this stage of the game, I'd still be going online course. So the $19 leads then to an online course, which I would probably have somewhere at the $197. Go little pen go. And the $197 course would be simply a series of, let's say, 12 webinars that are pre-recorded, that have a steps and stages for them to filter and to vet their idea properly. And at the end of that entire piece and process, then I would actually ask them to come and do a weekend course. So it would just be a very simple weekend, not all that complex. And what's going to happen is that this would be a group process that gets adapted from your current one-on-one process. And this is basically where you show them how to do it. You step through a couple of examples. You make certain that they understand it. You give them everything that you've got without doing it for them. From the weekend course, we then take them up to, and by the way, what we're always watching for and vetting for is there a fit? Could this really be big, and could I serve and support? And if they are, then you, by application perhaps, say, I would be interested in taking you on as one-on-one client, because what you have to say actually has a real shot at this. And then you take them up with a custom value proposition. And let's be perfectly clear about this, is that if you helped an inventor get his or her product to market, then I would absolutely want a portion of that business or of the buyout. for a percentage. So what happens is we're no longer trading time for money or any of those sorts of things. And if you notice, by the way, there is no time for money here. There is no time for money here. We've got a large scale. So there's 15 to 20 people in the classroom at probably $997. So there is some time for money, but we're leveraging it really wisely. And we are putting them through this step and process where we can show them what we can do in all those pieces into a one-on-one piece where we end up with a percentage of the company. Does that help, Anna, in terms of putting a real tractionable example together?
Yeah, yep, that was perfect. Thanks.
What would you charge for the weekend group course? That's a really great question, Connie. Basically, almost all of our programs are right in the $1,000 range if they're aimed at retail. In addition to that, though, if we're doing more sort of coach training and those sorts of things, that starts usually around the $2,500 a weekend because it's a professional application. Does that make sense? And I see somebody's hand is up. Just let me take a quick peek at whose hand is up. Connie, do you want me to unmute you? I'm just going to unmute you, Connie, and then see what we can do to be of service. Connie, did that make sense to you?
It did. Thank you very much, Jay.
Okay. All right, so the last part, and I know we're going a little bit long, gang, but I'm going as fast as I possibly can. So the last part of the 6 pillars of a business model, and this is where Kathy, where did you go? Kathy, you had said one of the most important things under the sun. Oh, Allison Allison just said that it went out at $19. So $19, I'm just going to say this really quick, would be nothing more than the could be big assessment that inventors fill out to see if, in fact, it's half decent. They get some clarification and they get some standard stock answers to help them do their piece. The next step up from there is that there's a program that vets the people that actually meet a certain criteria, that then makes an offer to them for an online course that steps them through all of the steps and processes that they need to do to make sure that their idea could really be big. And it's, anywhere from 4 to 12 pre-recorded webinars. Those people then get marketed into a weekend where there might be 20 people together working through the overall process that Jude does on a one-on-one basis, but goes through the steps. She doesn't do it for them. She teaches them how. And then from that weekend, then she's targeting and looking for people that don't want to do it themselves. They want somebody to do it for them. And she would negotiate a value proposition at that stage of the game where it would include some form of a percentage of the company. Does that help out, Allison? Got the rest? Okay, fantastic. At what point do you do a continuity with this model? That's a really great question. So to me, in this scenario, there's a whole variety of pieces for that. She could actually add continuity right after this 197. She could add continuity right after the weekend. And of course, continuity is built into the value proposition when she's working one-on-one with her clients because she's taking a percentage of the company. Okay, got the rest, all good. Referrals, Kathy, yes, my dear. So it is not just referrals. And I want to be clear about this, is that this is something called the 6th pillar of this. And this is the circle that connects all of these things together. The 6th component of this is something called, go machine, the viral coefficient. And the viral coefficient is far more than referrals. Although you're on the right track, Kathy, it is way deeper than that. The viral coefficient is simply this. You see our little man here who has the extension cords? It is where the viral coefficient is when your client's influence, please understand this, is plugged into your business. And what I need you to understand, if you look around here, you can see up here that even at the ladder of Ascension, we want the client's influence plugged into our business. Oh, go back. I think I just erased all of my notes, and I did. All right, that was an accident, but bear with me here. So you'll also notice that even at the lead generation stage, your client's influence plugged into your business, at conversion, at delivery, at continuity. So what this simply means is this, and I want you to start thinking this through because this has never been easier in the history of the world, is that you have the capacity to have your thrilled clients plug you into their network. Now, they can do it easier than ever, and you must design, please hear this, not just a, hey, you liked my delivery, would you please give me your 3 friends, like, a bunch of lame network marketing things that just really don't work in the long haul. What we're after here is easy ways for people to simply share, even at the lead generation stage, what they're up to. Now, they can share that on Twitter, they could share that on Facebook, they could send a postcard, they could do a multitude of things. But you must begin looking at your business from the perspective of, at every single step, how do I make it easy for my for my clients or prospective clients to plug me into their client's influence. Now, please understand this. Think about it from this perspective. The difference between asking for referrals and doing what I'm suggesting is this, is that what you're trying to do is you're trying to help your client have more influence with their family, with their friends, with their business associates. You're trying to help them look like a rock star. So here's a hint that I hope will make some sense to you. If you're posting on Facebook, for the most part, you're not posting for them to pay attention to you. You're actually posting for something your clients could share and they could look like a rock star on your behalf. So when you're posting things on Facebook, when you're posting things on Twitter, don't think about what do my, how can I contribute to my potential clients, or how could I, generate a lead through this. Think about how could I write something that my clients would pass on. And if you can answer that question, how do I write something that my clients could pass on, then that's a pretty meaningful thing. So here's a little one of the ways in which we build it into delivery, for example. So when we're doing the gift or any of our other weekend programs, I will put a little contest on, which is this: whoever makes the most posts on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter combined, I will give a prize to. So generally speaking, I'll give them a $1,000 weekend, whomever gives the most, whoever tweets the most about what their experience is, what they're learning, and the influence. So that is a simple, easy way. Here's another way in which we do it in terms of the conversion process. We get people registered for the gift, which is our continuity program. What happens at the gift is we say, look, you need support with the people at your home, so bring a friend. So we give them the capacity to bring a friend. In the continuity model, while they're in creation circles, that entire piece and process, we always let them bring a friend to what we call our community events. So they can try it on for size, ITY, to the community event, so they can check it out. So we build it in at every single step and stage. And the better you do this, you will be astounded at how easy your lead generation gets. But you've got to strategically do it. Just go back, see if I missed any questions while I was doing that, because I was kind of motoring here for a moment. What should be charged for the continuity tribe? That's a great question. It depends on the rest of the model. I cannot answer that, but continuity, you can think of, there's lots of stuff around continuity. They call it micro continuity, which is anything really under $30. Larger scale continuity, which is, our creation circles are at $97. Hell, when I was doing high-end entrepreneurial coaching, is that the continuity model was $2,000 a month. And they got 3 retreats a year, and they got a specific amount of coaching and access through digital content. So there's lots of ways to do that, and you cannot answer the question of what should be charged without, again, looking at the business model and what's the value proposition. Any questions or comments about this idea of the viral coefficient? And I'll share one little idea with you, is that if you could get your viral coefficient to be above 1.5, you will have an exponentially growing business. That simple. So what that means is, for every client you convert, you simply need them to bring 1.5 clients. And if you take a look at it, if you're going to design systems at every single step and stage of your entire model, that's totally doable for anyone who's contributing real value. Totally doable.
So 1.5 people, I guess.
Yes, yeah. If you can average 1.5 people, you have an exponentially growing business. Which, when you think of it from that perspective, is like, seriously, my business could grow exponentially simply by 1.5 people for every client I win.
Yeah.
It's boondoggling.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll recommend another book that could be of service and support. It's called The Viral Loop, and goodness, his name escapes my brain. But if you look up The Viral Loop, you will find it. So that's a lot of ground to cover, and I've been going as fast as I possibly can. I don't know what was number 6. So number 6 is the viral coefficient. So if you think of it, lead generation is 1, conversion is 2, delivery is 3, continuity is 4, the ladder of ascension is 5, and the viral coefficient is 6. And it is, think of it, it is a separate pillar, but it is one that is intertwined with every single other pillar. And I see just another code. So if she added a monthly retainer after the 197, would she price it at $19.99, $2.99? Best guess. Yeah, best guess. I really do need to know more about what the offering is. And again, here's the thing that I want you to, and I harp on this for the creators code over and over again. which is this: it doesn't matter what something costs. And this is from the perspective of being a purchaser. It matters what the value is. And in the same way as your pricing model, when you start thinking about what am I going to price something for my business, it doesn't much matter what the price is. What matters is what is the value offering. So I would push back saying, I don't know what she should price it at. It depends on the value. So my high-end entrepreneurs had no trouble paying $2,000 a month on a continuity model when I can come up with a couple of examples where people would go away in a retreat. We'd come up with an idea. 90 days later, they have an entirely new business that's generating 7 figures. $2,000 a month is mighty cheap. Now, at the same breath, I've had people say, oh my goodness, $37 a month for a webinar and one live event, that just seems like it's too much. And my response is, clearly for you, it is. They don't get the value proposition. How's that for overwhelming, Anne?
You did a great job on both ends, overwhelming and giving us some great information. So I don't want you to get off here before you at least, like if they just want to know, more about this creator code, some of the stuff that you're doing, let's, aren't you doing a webinar or something
I am.
about, yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so here is, and I'm just going to, I'm going to pause the screen here for a second because I have difficulty keeping track of all of the dates and the things that go on here. So I'm going to actually just try and find a little bit of information about that because there is escape. Go on, help me out here, computer. But on August 1st, that much I know. On August 1st, we are going to
That's a
do.
Wednesday.
That is
Yes,
a Wednesday.
that's next Wednesday. Okay.
Yes, we are doing. There we go. I think I found it. You know what? I just need to go back to something. Before we do that, can I just finish a thought that I see that I did
Oh,
not
yeah,
complete?
sure.
One.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And because it's back to this whole idea of people asking some of the questions that I want to make sure that I have made sure that I have answered for them. I could spend all day asking questions. Thanks a ton. I've been in this type of business for over a year, and this is the first time that it simply makes sense and flows to me. Thanks. My current thinking, action, business model are simply not supporting my intention, efforts, and goals, and I just got why. Thank you. I'm so thrilled to hear that. Marta, it just doesn't need to be this hard, and I just spent too long trying to figure it out, so I'm happy to share it. Quick question, Juanita was just asking, how does the ladder of ascension work with the viral coefficient? So great question. So here's one of the things, and I'm just going to share my screen again, and I will answer that question, I promise. Show my screen. So first and foremost, the ladder of ascension question is this. So one of the things that I ask people to do is to share their commitments. So if, for example, somebody comes and participates this creation circle training that Anne is talking about. So basically, what we have created is that we've created fundamentally a business in a box that does everything on the back end that includes all of the pieces of this model as a turnkey system for coaches and trainers. So what that means is they don't have to create the affiliate system, the website, the content, all those sorts of things. We just give them everything. And this is based on 25 years of experience. But for the ladder of ascension, what's interesting about this is that we have asked people, and it's done by application, we've asked people that when they ask for the application, that they share that with their community of, hey, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring to take a step up in my business. So what happens is they begin to, at each step and stage as they move up the ladder, they share that. If and when we accept them as an applicant, we ask them to share that again with their tribe is, hey, I've just been accepted to the Creation Circle Leader Training. I'm going to be rolling out something amazing and fantastic to my community in very short order. I will keep you posted. Then, just before they come for the training, we want them to make a blog post. We want them to share with their tribe. This is why I'm doing this. This is what it means. This is what the value contribution is. So what happens is each and every step up the ladder of ascension that they take in their process, they also communicate and share it with their tribe, which of course supports them in communicating this is what's going on and I'm going to have something of value to contribute to you. And it also supports us with people understanding and getting what the creator's code is. So Juanita, does that make my computers does that make more sense in terms of what that means?
Well, and let me just throw out one little
Okay.
thing. I mean, and I think this is what you're talking about, but just like I just built out a few, as you know, Jay,
Yeah.
maybe they don't know, a few campaigns, but and as part of that process, I share a video, and then I have a call to action where I say to them, tell me the goal that you absolutely must, achieve in the next 90 days. And it's like a Facebook plugin that literally kind of like goes viral. Like they're talking, like there's a whole conversation going on, there, that gets leaked out to their friends and people that they're talking to as well.
Yes.
And I don't know for sure if that's what you're talking about, but it crossed my mind while you were saying this. So
that is one tool to accomplish exactly what we're talking about. Yes.
okay.
That is absolutely one tool. So now going back to this question of how do we price based on value, which is a bunch of the questions at the end, like should it be 97, should it be this? So here's your first task. Identify a powerful avatar. And an avatar is a three-dimensional psychographic profile of our ideal client. When we know who they are, then we know how to price. And if we don't know who they are, we don't have a clue how to price. Because isn't it fascinating that a high-level entrepreneur has no trouble with $2,000 a month, and another person has difficulty for $37 a month? When truthfully, from my perspective, is that the $37 a month value was 1,000 times better offer. So you got to know who your avatar is. So that's your three-dimensional psychographic profile. Now, then you have to figure out what your chosen avatar values, what is important to them. So our chosen avatars at the high-level entrepreneurial space, they value business structure, they value business models, they value business contents, they value a break away from their crazy life that they have created, which is why all those retreats happened in different areas. We went to South Africa, had dinner with FW de Klerk. We did all kinds of funky, cool things. So at that price point, seems like a hell of a bargain. Now, here's the other piece you've got to do is you've got to add depth to your offers. And this is one of those pieces, and I've heard it explained in a little bit hooky way, and I'm going to do this fast, is that depth to your offer is another way of saying this, is that your offer should be complex and deep enough that somebody couldn't just go, okay, a 10-hour package, $2,000 is $200 an hour. Because even your clients also think in dollars per hour. And then they compare that dollar per hour. It's like, well, wait a second, the doctor only gets $250 an hour. Why am I paying Sally $200? So they've got this price thing in their brain. So add depth to your offers. An easy way to do that is use technology to magnify your reach and impact. So yes, there's some of your time if this is at the top of the model. Yes, there is experiential workshop. Yes, there is a community they get to participate in. Yes, there is. So you add a whole bunch of components to it so that calculation gets dismissed, and they start looking at it not from time for money. They start looking at it for what difference will this make in my life. And if you can solve this problem for me, which is what I got to accomplish in 90 days, man, you got me for life. And please, I want to beat this out of your heart, mind, and soul. Never, ever, 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 ever did I mention never, ever quote an hourly rate to anyone for any purpose whatsoever. Okay, so that was the thing that I wanted to make sure that I completed on.
Okay.
Okay, now going back to this thing on August 1st. So that is creation circles, and we are looking for creation circle leaders. And these are people who are skilled coaches and trainers who want to get a business in a box, who want to be able to simply, our fundamental value proposition is you can work 5 nights a month to make $100,000 a year by stepping into a model that has all of these pieces already done, where you don't have to recreate and reinvent the wheel. And basically, that is on August 1st. We will give you an overview of the business model, which, by the way, shock of all shocks, follows all of those key pieces that I just shared with you. I designed it for that reason because it took me a little while to learn how to do it. But now that we've got it, it is quite astounding. We'll demo the sales and marketing tools. And if you're interested, I'll just ask Anne to send you an invitation, and you can jump on. And I want to be clear
And
about this.
We should probably tell them that you and I have already talked about this, and we've learned that it's a really good, it's a good fit with Ideal Life Vision, right? Because a lot of people on this call, are certified with that. And so
well, and I'll just share.
Take a minute and, talk about how they can blend a little bit.
Well, so here's the key piece to this is that, and this is something that you and I talked around, but I think I can just say here is that here's my piece about this is that different coaches take these ideas and put their own twist on it. So I have somebody who's doing financial freedom. I have one she's a rock star doing self-care for moms. I've got somebody who's doing parenting. So they take their unique edge and they plug it into our system. So it's not like you got to do somebody else's work and all the rest of it. But one of the things that I really want to do, and this is you and I have to still negotiate a little bit of details around this, I want to plug the Ideal Life Vision into the front end of this entire system, so that everyone who becomes a Creation Circle member would go through the Ideal Life Vision process that would help clarify and help them commit to what it is that they're going to create in their Creation Circle for the next 12 months. And so if you were already, a certified Creation Circle, a certified Ideal Life Vision facilitator, I mean, there'd be opportunities to connect, contribute, speak, do all those sorts of things to help people through that process. So I want it to be one of those pieces of foundation context setting for what are you going to create in the next, not just 90 days, but over the next year minimum.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Does to me.
Fabulous. Is there more info to say? Commitment for the program? Yes, there absolutely is, Allison. And I think we'll just send a follow-up email that just has a whole bunch of details on it, and you can go and snoop around. And I just want to be clear about this. The webinar on the 1st, again, it's much like this. There's no selling. And in fact, the Creation Circle Leader Training is by application only. So this is not training that somebody can buy. That what we're doing is we're looking for business partners, and we will train the business partners. We will give them all of our systems and structures we've built for 25 years, and we'll build a fantastic value contribution and business together. So you need to understand that it's not I'm going to go take another training process. This isn't a training process. This is a business in a box and a business partner that has a whole bunch of training pieces to it to make sure you succeed. But it's not open to everybody. So I just need to be perfectly straight about that.
Right. Yeah, but I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm definitely looking into, doing that, adding just, yeah, I don't really know what to say about it, but I just think that it's such it just matches and meshes so well with Life Vision and supporting people, way beyond just creating, a recording that they're going to listen to.
Yes.
So anyway, I definitely, would recommend that you guys attend this webinar, find out, go into the next step with Jay to find out a little bit more about, this Creation Circle, leader information webinar.
Allison just wrote down is that it sounds revolutionary. And Allison, I just want to share a story with you, which I think is funny, because what we want to do is, of course, support people who are coaches and trainers. So we've been talking to coaching schools and, certification bodies. And the last 3 conversations that I've had with certification bodies and coaching schools was this. I finished doing the whole demo on how all the pieces work and what it actually means. And there's a long pause and they go, whew, wow. So could we just buy your business system and the back-end technology you designed? And the answer is no. You could become a partner and use it for free, but you can't buy it. So it is going to be a game changer. So we apply your tools to create our coaching skills. Partially, Asha, partially. There's more to it than that, but what it boils down, think of it like this, is that you use a broad framework, and that broad framework applies and helps you to utilize your unique niche, or niche, I guess, if I'm speaking in the US, your unique niche and how you can serve and support them in a higher level with a variety of different tools and resources, including a back-end transformational program series, all of those pieces that you get rewarded for all the way along, including high-end joint ventures with people, such as Jack Canfield on the faculty, Terry Tillman, a variety of people who are part of the Transformational Leadership Council. It's exceptionally strong. So can you please remind us how to get a copy of your book? Yes. Juanita, just go to my, I can actually show you real quick. So go to my blog, and you go, which is jfazette.com. And there'll be a little opt-in box just over on the right-hand side. That's not my blog. I thought that it was. Here we go. And there's a little opt-in box just right down here. So if you sign up for that, and you'll just get updates, which are, that's a charming picture of me. That, by the way, is that's how I look most of the time, just so you know.
That's how I remember you.
Which, by the way, this is an exceptional video. It's called The Wound of Personal Development, and it just talks about the lack of support and length of time for support for people to really create change, and why we designed something differently. But you just simply fill it in here. You'll get a link. You can download the digital copy, and I'll make sure that Ann also gets a link to download the workbook so that you've got a place to write and all those sorts of things as well to support you. So jfazette.com, little opt-in box there, and you'll get some of the updates as I'm writing my second book, which is The Creator's Code. So you'll get some sort of fresh content as it comes out of me as well.
Wow.
Jude, high five back to you, my friend.
Yeah, Jude was there with us, so she knows Jay too. Well, way to go. Okay,
All right.
So how do you want to wrap this up?
Well, short version is this. Thank you. Anybody here, you're certainly welcome to email me. I will, based on my arrangement with Ann, I'll make sure that you actually get my email. I'll do my best to serve and support you. I'd love for you to come to the webinar on August 1st. You'll get a picture of how all of these pieces fit together, and it will absolutely curl your hair how cool it is. And I hope we can be of service and support one another. Just that simple.
Awesome. Well, Jay, that was amazing. Once again, you delivered as always, so appreciate it. And you'll get back to me so I can, all the people that were on the webinar, I'll get you the information. Or is that?
Yeah, I'll send you an email that has all those links, and then you can just forward it off.
I don't have who opted in. That's the problem.
Oh,
so
right,
you
right,
actually might have to send it to them.
Okay, I will do that. That's no worries. I can send all that off simple, clean, and easy.
Okay, awesome. So I appreciate it, and you guys are probably going to hear, more about stuff that Jay and I hopefully are going to be doing together in the near future. So anyway, thanks, buddy, for coming and sharing all this stuff with us.
My pleasure, and it is, of course, my hope and prayer that it serves and supports people to leverage and crank up value for their clients in a way that makes their life easy. And I guess that's the last thing I want to leave it with is I share the part of the struggle at the beginning, just to let you know, been there, done that. But good God, you do not have to do it that way, and we can make it a whole lot easier.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, and thanks everyone on the call for all your comments, your questions, and for moving this forward a little bit, and for joining Jay and I today. So anyway, you guys all have a good afternoon, and thank you again, Jay, for doing this.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right.
See
Bye-bye.
you guys. Bye.